My brother dumped his kids on me and disappeared. 18 years later, they call me mom, and he's about to regret showing up at my door. And trust me, I didn't see this coming. That's how my story starts, with a sentence that still feels impossible to believe. When he left, I was 21, still figuring out who I was. He showed up one night with 2 tiny children, both crying and clutching tattered teddy bears. He said, "Just for a few months, Mel, I'll get back on my feet. You're good with kids." Then he hugged them, gave me their bag, promised to call the next day. He never did. Weeks became months, months became years. His number stopped working, his social pages went dark, and every photo at my parents' house had one face missing: his. I worked double shifts at the diner to feed them, tried to study at night, tried to be enough. I never planned to be a mom, but somewhere between school lunches and sleepless nights, they stopped being my brother's kids and became mine. If someone told me I'd raise 2 kids that weren't mine and still call it the best thing that ever happened to me, I'd have laughed. But that's exactly what happened. Reality didn't hit all at once. It came in pieces: missed birthdays, broken promises, eviction letters. I filed a missing person report after 6 months, but they said he wasn't missing, just gone. So I built a life out of that choice. A 1-bedroom apartment, 3 jobs, and 2 children who didn't owe me their love but gave it anyway. When Aiden started kindergarten, he called me mommy, in front of his teacher. I tried to correct him, but he just smiled and said, "You take care of me, don't you? That's what moms do." That one sentence cracked something open inside me. We survived everything together: holidays without gifts, winters without heat, birthdays on a tight budget. But love grew there, quiet and unshakable. And after a while, the empty space where my brother's name used to be stopped echoing. Still, sometimes at night, I'd hear his voice in my memory say, "It'll only be a few months, Mel." 18 years later, that promise finally came knocking again. I thought the past was gone for good. Until the past texted me. A random number. A message I'll never forget. "Mel, it's Luke. Heard the kids are grown. I'm in town. Would love to see them." That single line reopened every scar I'd spent nearly 2 decades healing. I didn't reply for days. Then, one afternoon, a car I didn't recognize pulled into my driveway. He stepped out, older, worn, still wearing that same grin that used to charm his way out of trouble. "Hey Mel," he said, like we'd spoken yesterday. "It's been a minute, huh?" I didn't answer. He looked around like a man inspecting a property he used to own. "Nice place. Kids must be big now. You could have called." "I did," he shrugged. "Figured I should come by in person." No apology. Just entitlement. "Can I see them?" he asked finally. "Why?" "Because they're my kids," he said. Those words made something inside me snap, quiet but final. "They don't know you," I told him. He smirked. "They'll remember. Kids don't forget their parents. They were 4 and 1. They remember who stayed." He looked away, searching for sympathy that didn't live here anymore. "Can we talk?" he asked. We stepped outside. The air was heavy. Thunder somewhere in the distance. "Look, I know I messed up." "You didn't mess up, Luke. You walked away. There's a difference." He sighed. "I had problems, addiction, debt. I didn't want them to see me like that. So instead you let them see nothing at all?" For once, he didn't have a comeback. Only silence. "I figured you could handle it," he muttered. "That's the problem. You decided that for me." He tried smiling again. "I'm here now, trying to make things right." "How?" I asked. "By showing up after 17 birthdays and calling it redemption?" His shoulders dropped. I thought maybe they'd want to know me. "They do know you as the man who left." The space between us went still. Crickets, wind, heartbeat. "Can I at least talk to them?" he asked quietly. "They're adults now. It's their choice, but you don't get to play dad." He nodded, pretending to understand, but I saw the old arrogance flicker back. "You raised them well," he said smugly. "Guess I taught you something." My laugh came sharp. "No. They taught me everything. You just gave me the material." If you think that line hurt, wait until you hear what came next. That evening, Aiden came home early and saw the car outside. "Who's that?" "Your father," I said. He paused, jaw tightening. "You let him in?" "No." "Good." He walked outside without hesitation. I stood at the window close enough to see everything but not close enough to stop him. Luke tried opening with a grin. Aiden didn't buy it. From behind the glass, I caught fragments: Luke's excuses, Aiden's disbelief growing sharper. Then, clear as daylight, Aiden's voice cut through the stormy air. "You can't just appear now and call that being a father. She's our mom. You're just the guy who left." Luke's face fell. He reached out, but Aiden stepped back. "You lost your family the night you walked away." Seconds later, the car door slammed. He drove off slowly this time, headlights disappearing into the same darkness he'd come from. Inside, Aiden pressed his forehead against mine and whispered, "He's exactly who you said he was." For the first time in 18 years, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. Because sometimes karma doesn't need words or punishment, it just needs a door you no longer open. If you think that was the end of it, it wasn't. The next morning came too quietly. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just heavy. The air still smelled like rain, and every corner of the house carried the echo of the night before. I made coffee but didn't drink it. My hands shook, not from fear, from release. For 18 years I dreaded that moment, the day he'd reappear, the day I'd have to explain the word father again. Now it had come and gone, and somehow, we were still standing. Aiden went about his morning like nothing happened, but his silence spoke for him. Sometimes strength sounds like dishes clinking instead of words. Then Lily walked in. She had slept through everything the night before, but one glance at my face told her something had shifted. "Mom," she said slowly, "what happened?" And just like that, every memory I'd kept locked away came rushing back. "He came," I said, one syllable that carried years of history. "Who?" "Your father." Her eyes widened. "He's back?" I nodded. She sank into the chair across from me, quiet. I expected tears, maybe anger. Instead, she laughed that small, nervous laugh she gets when emotions trip over each other. "So, what does he want? A parenting trophy?" I smiled despite myself. "That's the thing about kids you raise through pain, they don't inherit weakness, they inherit your fire. He said he wants to see you too." I replied. "See us how?" She scoffed. "Like, look at us? Because if he means be with us, that ship sank 2 decades ago." I studied her face, the mix of sarcasm and heartbreak only grown kids of broken homes can master. If you think the confrontation was loud, wait until you hear how quiet realization can be. Lily was still processing, even though she covered it with humor. She sipped her orange juice like it might give her answers. "Do I have to meet him?" she asked finally. "No," I said firmly. "You don't owe him that. You don't owe him anything." She nodded. "Good, because the only dad I ever needed was Aiden." The words hit me like sunlight through clouds. Not because she meant to hurt, but because it revealed how whole they'd become without him. Later that day, I drove to the grocery store. Ordinary errands felt surreal now, like walking through a world that didn't know it had shifted overnight. People smiled, waved, talked about sales and weather. Meanwhile, I was rehearsing 18 years of emotion in silence. At a red light, I caught my reflection in the mirror. There were lines around my eyes I didn't remember earning. A calmness too, the kind that comes after surviving what should have broken you. It hit me then. I'd spent so long being angry at what he'd done, that I'd forgotten to honor what I'd done instead. I didn't just fill his absence, I built love out of it. That was the awakening, realizing that I'd never been a placeholder. I was the parent, the provider, the home. The title of mom wasn't borrowed, it was forged. But peace never stays quiet for long. Especially when guilt decides it wants a second chance. That evening, as the sun set behind the yard, my phone buzzed again, another text from Luke. "Mel, I didn't mean to upset anyone. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen. I didn't reply. Sometimes silence is the loudest no you can give. 10 minutes later, another message arrived. "You're not innocent either. You turned them against me." My fingers clenched around the phone. The humility had lasted less than a day. I typed once, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, I wrote only this. "I didn't turn them against you, you left. The rest did itself." I hit send and turned off my phone. That was my awakening, not revenge, not victory, just truth. Simple and solid. If you ever raised kids that weren't yours and loved them like they were, you already know. The reward isn't gratitude, it's peace. That night, Lily knocked softly on my door. "Hey Mom," she whispered, clutching her old stuffed bear she hadn't touched in years. "Can I sleep here tonight?" I nodded. She curled beside me like she used to when she was little, her hair brushing my shoulder. "Are we okay?" she asked drowsily. "We're more than okay," I said. "We're free." She smiled, eyes heavy. "Nevertheless," she murmured before drifting off a word we turned into a promise long ago. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance again, low and familiar, like the world reminding me, storms always return, but so do survivors. Have you ever had someone try to come back into your life after walking out? Would you let them in? Or close the door for good? Tell me below. That's when karma finally catches up. If you thought he'd walk away quietly, you don't know my brother. For about a week, things were peaceful again. Too peaceful. The house settled back into its rhythm. Aiden off to class. Lily drawing late at night, me working in my small office by the window. Then the messages began. At first, polite. "I just want to help out. Maybe the kids could forgive me if we talk." I ignored them. Then they got colder. "You owe me that much. You kept them from me on purpose. If guilt doesn't work, manipulation tries next." That's Luke's way. Always was. When he was cornered, he'd twist history until he came out the victim. By the third message, I blocked his number. For the first time since he'd reappeared, I felt truly angry, not the quiet sadness of before, but a clean, focused fire. Because he wasn't just trying to make peace. He was trying to rewrite the story. 3 days later, a letter arrived. An actual paper letter, folded neatly into an envelope with no return address. Inside, familiar handwriting. "Melissa, I'm sorry for what happened. I was young, stupid. Now I'm older and alone. Can we meet just once? I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to explain." And here's the thing about empathy. When you've lived your whole life taking care of others, it doesn't shut off easily. So I went. We met at a small diner off the highway, the same chain he used to work at as a teenager. He was already sitting there, hands clasped, pretending to look humble. "Thanks for coming," he said. "You didn't have to." "You're right, I didn't." I sat down anyway. For a while, he just talked about losing his job, about getting older, about how lonely he felt. He sprinkled words like family, home, and starting over, through every sentence like sugar in bitter coffee. Then he leaned forward. They don't have to call me dad or anything, he said. But maybe I could stay with you guys for a bit, help out, start fresh. And there it was, the real reason. He didn't want forgiveness. He wanted a place to land. I breathed in slowly. The smell of diner pancakes, cheap coffee, and denial hung in the air. Luke, I said softly. You don't get to come back only when you need something. That's not family, that's convenience. His smile vanished. Wow, 18 years and you're still bitter. No, I said, I'm better. There's a difference. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. So that's it? You're perfect now? Everyone loves Saint Melissa, the guardian angel who raised my kids? When Shane runs out of words, rage takes its place. I stood up. I didn't raise your kids, Luke. You left them. I raised mine. Every head in that diner turned. I didn't care. He stared at me like he was trying to find the brother-sister bond that no longer existed, but all he found was a stranger reflecting the man he'd become. He thought I'd been waiting 18 years to see him. The truth. I'd been waiting 18 years to say that line. I left before he could answer. The moment the door shut behind me, it felt like oxygen rushed in after years of holding my breath. When I got home, Aiden was fixing the garden fence, and Lily was painting near the porch. They looked up, smiling. Just seeing them there strong, grown, safe, made everything worth it. Where were you? Aiden asked. Closing a chapter, I said. They didn't ask which one. They didn't have to. That night, a text came from an unknown number. You're right. I was selfish. I'm leaving tomorrow. I hope one day they forgive me. L. No apologies could rebuild what had been buried in 18 years of silence, but maybe, finally, he understood that walking away once means the door isn't yours to open again. Sometimes karma doesn't destroy, it just erases your access pass. If someone who once abandoned you came back saying, I've changed, would you give them a second chance or keep your peace? Comment below. That's when karma finally delivers its full lesson. The thing about consequences, they don't come fast, they come accurate. Weeks passed after that diner meeting. Silence again, but this time, it wasn't mine, it was his. Life drifted back to normal. I thought that would be the end of it. But karma rarely ends when you expect. It circles quietly, waiting for the moment you finally stopped watching. One evening, I was in my office balancing an invoice when a number from out of state flashed on my phone. A hospital line. Are you related to a Luke Carver? The nurse asked. For a moment the name didn't register, not because I'd forgotten but because it felt like someone from another lifetime. I said yes. He listed you as his emergency contact. He shouldn't have. I said automatically. The nurse hesitated. He's stable now, but he had a mild stroke. He's been asking for you. I wish I could say I felt nothing, but it's never that simple. I hung up and sat still for a long time. 18 years of anger. One letter. One fight, and now another choice. By morning, I was at the hospital. His room smelled like antiseptic and guilt. He looked smaller in that bed, tubes, monitors, and regret doing what time alone never could. When he saw me, his face crumpled. Mel, he whispered, voice rusted from use. You came. I'm not here for you to feel better, I said quietly. I'm here to make sure you're not alone. His eyes filled. I didn't deserve that. No, I answered. You didn't, but I'm not doing it for you. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. I guess I really messed up, huh? Yeah, I said. You did. Sometimes the harshest forgiveness is the kind that doesn't come with a hug. He turned his head toward the window. I wanted to tell them I'm sorry. They know, I said. They also know words don't raise children. Tears slid sideways down his face. Do they hate me? No, I said. They just don't remember you enough to hate. Those words broke him more cleanly than anger ever could. I didn't stay long. Before I left, I placed a small photo on his table, the one of Aiden and Lily at graduation, smiling in their caps, the sunlight bright behind them. He stared at it like a man staring at evidence of something divine he'd never believed in. They look happy, he said. They are, I said. That's what you gave up. His breath hitched. You raised them, right? I nodded once. No, Luke, we raised each other. When I walked out, the hallway felt lighter. Not because I'd forgiven him, but because I'd finally released what forgiving him would never fix. That's the quiet twist of karma. It doesn't always hurt the way you expect. Sometimes it just leaves you alive long enough to realize what you lost. Back home, I told Aiden and Lily where I'd been. They listened quietly. Lily said softly. Was he sorry? He was trying to be. Are you? She asked. I smiled. No. I'm grateful, because without his leaving, I might never have learned what staying really means. Aiden nodded. Then I guess we're lucky. I looked at both of them, grown, steady, good, and thought. Yes, we are. That night, I stood on the porch again. The same spot where it had all started years ago. The wind was cool. Somewhere miles away, a hospital room hummed with machinery and mirrors. For the first time, the word mom didn't feel like a borrowed badge. It felt like a crown I'd earned quietly. Every sleepless night, every hard choice, every moment I stayed when someone else ran. In the end, karma didn't take anything from me. It handed back everything I'd built in peace. Some stories don't end with doors slamming or revenge served hot. Some end with silence and peace. It's been 6 months since that hospital call. Luke survived. The doctor said he'd need therapy, a slower life, fewer stresses. I never visited again, not because I wished him harm, but because goodbyes don't always need audience repeats. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a quiet understanding that you've already said everything worth saying. Spring came early this year. Aiden finished his degree and started teaching at the local school. Watching him with his students is like watching a promise fulfilled. Lily got into an art residency 2 towns over. 3 nights a week she paints till sunrise. Whenever she comes home she still calls out, "Mom, are you awake?" Even when she knows I am. The house is calmer, lighter, healed. I still think of the past sometimes, but not like a wound, more like a scar that proves survival. You can forgive someone without reopening the door they closed behind them. One afternoon, while cleaning drawers, I found the photo again, the same one I'd left for Luke at the hospital. A week after I'd walked out, a nurse had mailed it back to me with a short note. "He asked that you keep this. Said it belongs where it's loved." For reasons I can't describe, that small act hit harder than any apology ever could. It told me he'd finally understood that family isn't possession, it's participation. And once you stop showing up, you stop belonging. That night, as twilight stretched across the kitchen, I sat in the quiet and thought about the strange ways life teaches us. 18 years ago, I thought my life had ended when my brother left 2 crying children on my doorstep. But really, that was the day it began. Because love, the real kind, doesn't always arrive wrapped in perfect stories. Sometimes it shows up as chaos and asks, "Can you handle this?" And if you say yes, the universe whispers, "Then watch what happens." I stepped outside.